dropped out of college, so this is really giving me PTSD right now to be up here. But I'm happy to see the beer photo too. There's a solid beer theme throughout the Yasso story, which we'll get to. But I appreciate being here. Thanks to Adam and Jenny and Zulimi, who there she is, right back there. So I was new to Delray in 2020, and my wife went to our kids' school and came back and said, "There's an entrepreneur there that would love to," or a sister of an entrepreneur that would love to, meet you for advice. And I met her, and she told me about CreativeMornings, and here I am, like 2 years later. So being new to the community and having an opportunity to find out about an organization like this is it's incredible, and it's amazing that you guys all are here today. And I think it's great that it's global. I wish I knew about it when I was starting Yasso in Boston, but I'm so excited to be a part of it now. Jump into it. That's me and my business partner, Amanda. It's true, we met in kindergarten, small town south of Boston. I've been best friends since 1991, and friendship is, alongside endurance, probably a core thread of the Yasso story. It's one of my favorite quotes. Probably came across it in 2017, I believe, during a particularly hard time at Yasso, but I think it was something that I lived by before I even saw the quote. And I think the fact that you guys are all here speaks to it. Is just the secret of getting things done is to act. And no matter what it is you're trying to do in your life, I understand not everyone is an entrepreneur in this room, but no matter what it is you're trying to do, you just got to take one step forward and have conviction that if you don't know what you're doing, you'll figure it out. And I promise you that's the story of my entrepreneurial journey that we'll get into. A little bit about me. I'm one of 5, so I've kind of known endurance my whole life, coming up from a big family, the 4th, the pouty little one on the bottom. And now I have 2 kids of my own, so again, endurance, life, and being one of 5 and being a parent is very exhausting, so I feel like endurance is a thread in that. So my entrepreneurial journey started in 2007. Again, beer as a core thread here. This is a photo of my best friend Nick and I in Europe in 2006. He passed away the following year, and that really started my entrepreneurial journey. In a place of immense sadness and pretty dark times, I looked to creativity as an outlet of just kind of escaping what was the reality of losing a best friend. And I thought creativity would maybe be an opportunity to bring friends together, lead into some more bright spots of the mind and kind of, play into our strengths. So a friend and I, also best friends with Nick, wanted to start a business. We called it Redefined Industries. And our thought was we'll create consumer products and launch them to the market with the hope that, we get them on store shelves and sell them. But more than anything, it was just an opportunity at that point in life. A lot of our friends were graduating college, just bring people together and have fun. And with that being said, we created our first product, which was inflatable beer pong tables. So you can picture this. I've now dropped out of college, and I now have to tell my parents that I'm going to start a business, and it's going to be inflatable beer pong tables. But at the right age of 21, it was the best, most fun product to create. And what it allowed us to do, and no one had done inflatable beer pong tables, if you can imagine that. So we really set out on an entrepreneurial journey of figuring out how to do it. So again, back to that quote of just the secret to getting things done is to act. And we hired an engineer in Texas because it was pretty much a glorified air mattress, but the complexity was you needed the appropriate amount of holes so the beer, when you put in it, the mattress would still float. So we hired an engineer in Texas, and he built us a prototype. It worked, and we went to Shanghai, China, and created at a factory. About the first run was 5,000 inflatable beer pong tables. So took my whole life savings and a little bit of money from some friends and family and put it all into inflatable beer pong rafts. And we called it Poolside Pong. And this was about 2007, so pre-Amazon, like we know it today, pre-Instagram. And it was a grind. We just promoted mainly through paid advertisements on the internet, did our own marketing outreach to blogs, sold mainly through our website and attended events. And one day, a pretty popular blog picked us up, and Sports Illustrated saw that blog. They picked us up, and then within about 6 months, we gained distribution at Spencer Gifts, Urban Outfitters, and iParty. And it became pretty big. The first year, we sold over $1 million worth of inflatable beer pong tables. But it was great because it really taught us everything A to Z in entrepreneurship. We figured out how to do our own accounting. We actually raised some money to keep up with inventory. So we started to speak to investors, which is always an interesting meeting when you're pitching a product like this. But I think there's an inner college student in everyone that was pretty excited to hear it. So we got our money, and we really learned a lot. And honestly, it went back to that moment of losing Nick. Myself and a lot of my friends just found happiness in the fact that we're being creative. We were designing the logo, figuring out how to brand products, putting in the packaging, speaking to consumers, being somewhat persuasive to convince people to want to spend their hard-earned money on a $50 inflatable raft. And it was some of the best times as an entrepreneur, just being able to kind of put yourself out there and see if it worked. And it was really, we started to pick up Spencer's and Urban Outfitters and iParty, and life was good. We're 22 years old, selling inflatable beer pong tables, and we went big with all the profitability we had and additional dip into my life savings. Having when I dropped out of college, I worked in a construction company for 5 years, so I had a little bit of money that I put aside, and we put a large order in Shanghai for that Spencer Gifts was going to fulfill for the Christmas season. And when they arrived in the States, about 10,000 inflatable beer pong tables had punctured holes in them, so we couldn't sell them, which is key. You want the beer pong, poolside pong, to actually float with people in the pool. None of these did. So I'm 23 at this point. I just started Yasso at the same time as poolside, and this was tough, and it spoke to just the entrepreneurial journey, and I think life and its endurance, and it's long, and you got to stay with it. As Jenny said, and she read that quote, it's overcoming adversity. And for me at this point, you're looking at like all my life savings and a bunch of IOUs, while also beginning to start Yasso. And I think that happened to me today. I'd like to think I'd do the same thing, but maybe it's just being naive and being 23. I actually, said, okay, this isn't the biggest obstacle to overcome. It, looking back, it actually is. But I went out and started Yasso around this time. So poolside was amazing because it gave me an outlet and really put me on the path of becoming an entrepreneur. And then Yasso was far more ambitious in terms of what we were trying to do. And the journey was much longer. We started nearly 15 years ago, and it was always this great success in terms of upward movement in terms of growth. But with that, and who we were trying to take out in the marketplace, it was extremely challenging. And so that's Amanda and I. And what we wanted to do when we looked at Yasso was, in 2009, Chobani and Fight Greek yogurt just came to the United States, and they were overtaking Yoplait in the refrigerated set. We were former Division I athletes. Before I dropped out, I was a Division I runner at American University on scholarship, and Amanda was on scholarship playing soccer at Providence College. So healthy lifestyles was just a part of who we were and how we performed. But we always had a sweet tooth, and Greek yogurt, the refrigerated set, was really taking market share from Chobani. We thought, maybe we could use that as an ingredient in the ice cream set to create more of a brand, unlike Skinny Cow and Weight Watchers, and be more like Ben & Jerry's. And that was really what we wanted to do. We wanted something that hit on the nutritionals and low calories of a diet brand, but not be diet, because in our eyes, if you said diet, it didn't taste good. So we wanted to be better for you, and we wanted to be fun. And we'll get to that. That was our ambition. Our first 2 years of product did not taste good, and so it was, I'd say, worse than diet because we had less calories. We thought lower the better. And so I think that's part of our theme of endurance, and what we call at Yasso is just continuous improvement. And we can apply that to all of our lives. And I think that is the story of Yasso as we get into some of the adversities. You've got to be willing to change, and you've got to be willing to pivot, especially on an enduring journey that takes quite a bit of time. This is us at our first manufacturing run. and that's us with our first truck, which I'll get to. But fun fact, our first manufacturing partner was a company called Mr. Cookie Face in New Jersey. So every time I went to the bank, they thought I was wiring someone from The Sopranos. So this is what we really set out to do. We were, as former D1 athletes, I think, I'll admit it now, it just had finally come around to speaking to it. I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder in terms of, poolside was a success until it wasn't. And so I think that motivated me in terms of the journey ahead for Yasso, in terms of wanting to make it successful. And for a journey like this, again, back to Jenny's, well, you do need to have that tenacity that thankfully we had. I think maybe as a result of just growing up in big families or being athletes, we had big dreams of what we wanted to do. And the biggest was we did want to sell nationally to households around the country. And we put our sights on overtaking Skinny Cow and Weight Watchers, which was in Walmart, Target, all the way down to your local bodega. And to do that, we focused on our product. And I think for whatever you're trying to do in the room, whatever your craft is, or if it's a good product, if you're an entrepreneur, you just got to be obsessed with making the best product possible. And it's never going to be perfect when you send it out the door, but then you go back tomorrow and just try to make it even better. And that was our story. And what we wanted to do was have the best taste and texture with Greek yogurt and create snacks that were better for you in a category that haven't seen that type of innovation. And how we get there? We were powered by community, grit, innovation, and friendship. And our journey was really long when you start to set out and try to overtake some of these, we call it Goliaths. It was just the biggest food companies in the world, mainly Unilever and Nestle. And we started with 2 of us and ultimately grew to a lot more. But every step of the way, we were powered by these 4 values of our company. And the journey was one of endurance. And each one of these photos speak to, how hard that journey was. And what got us through was these 4 values that we had with folks throughout the last 15 years. That first one on the left is a community event we used to go to for those in Massachusetts. That's the Falmouth Road Race. And that truck we like to call our first lemon flavor, because when I bought it, I didn't fully appreciate that it actually didn't really run. So we didn't really have any money at the time. We pretty much have to tow it around to events and pretend it was actually an operable ice cream truck. And after that event, we just got distribution at Stop and Shop for those in New England, and that's a really big win for us in 2012. But we had no money to spend on marketing, and we were putting everything into just making the product, which I'll get to. Our gross margin was horrible. We couldn't even spell EBITDA at that time, so we were just trying to figure out how to survive. And we held that event, had a big party afterwards, and it was middle of August at a prime kind of bar connected to a 5-star hotel down in Cape Cod. We had just gotten the distribution and Stop and Shop, and the truck wouldn't start. We couldn't get it home, but we also had no money to tow it. And the bar owner was pissed because he's like, you got to get this hideous looking ice cream truck off my property. And we realized that, a lot of affluent families from New York and New Jersey and New England were just traveling to that hotel, and they'd probably see the brand name. So we actually kept it there against his wishes for a month and just got free advertising. So not only do you have to be, set for endurance, but you have to be a little, a little scrappy. Grit is a theme that I think we all have. Honestly, if you're here, you probably have that trait, and you want to get better, and you kind of want to work hard at whatever it is you're doing. That's our first office. So at that point, we've already picked up Costco and some retailers on the East Coast. The unique thing with Yasso is within our first 9 months of business, we did about $6 million in revenue. So we really like to joke that we were, freshmen playing varsity. And that sounds good in theory. That's not good when the next year you're doing 18 and you have about a 12% margin and you're trying to figure out how are we ever going to make money. So my advice, to entrepreneurs in my space, maybe not take all that distribution at once, but the athlete inside of us, we wanted it. And I think it speaks to the journey of endurance we had is, we had some extra lives and we kind of used them in those like 2012 to 2014 years. But a big part of what we were trying to do is survive and not lose the distribution we have. But that's really hard to do when you're on the move. It's easier to make the perfect product and then launch in the market. When you're in the market and you're trying to tweak your product, whether for financial reasons or we'll get to our story of taste, it's really hard. But that was the story of Yasso, and in that came a lot of adversity. I saw a quote a few months ago, and it was, if you've launched your perfect product, you've launched too late. And I believe that. I think you need to get out to the market and at some point just start to have that continuous improvement mindset. And that was ours. If in that office we had probably enough adversity in that year that would be good for 15 years, we jam-packed it into our first year. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. Our first truck to Costco, which was a huge deal, tipped over in a snowstorm in the middle of Illinois on a highway, and all the product melted, of course. So we had to quickly produce a whole nother 53-foot tractor trailer of frozen yogurt just to make the shipment, which we did, but the insurance money, of course, didn't get to us. So that was a challenging period. The first packaging we ordered for that first run, when we reviewed it with our designer, he accidentally forgot to flip it back when he sent it to the packaging press, so our first packaging arrived to us upside down. And we're like, maybe we get away with this, and this is downtown Boston. And so we just went, we were like, where can we get the most people of volume to see if they notice this? And in Boston, we just went to the Irish bar basement of our office space, and there was about 30 people in there. I don't know if they were drunk or sober, but nearly every one of them said, that's upside down. And so we went back to the piggy bank and had to order all new packaging. The first check we ever received, finally that Costco order did arrive, and we needed this check to pay Mr. Cookie Face in New Jersey, who was calling me for like 4 consecutive Fridays. And I just kind of, a little bit of white lie, said the check's in the mail, and we kept needing more production to keep up with other demand we had. And the first check from Costco was $100,000. I think I owed $100,000 more to Mr. Cookie Face. So it arrived, but around noontime on a Friday, thankfully, we had to get into the bank, or he was really going to just pretty much stop running our products, which at the time was the only manufacturing facility that was able and willing to run Yasso. So the check for $100,000 comes, and I look at Amanda, my business partner, and said, we got to celebrate before we bring this to the bank. So we went to a bar, and we had burgers and beers, and as the waitress put down my burger, she spilled the beer all over the check. And so she's like, oh, I'm so sorry. And then she looked down and saw the $100,000. She goes, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And she brought it back to the kitchen and put it over an industrial dryer, and it dried out by 2:30. We got it in the bank, and we paid Cookie Face. But we had a lot of fun over the years, but there was every step of the way that first year was quite challenging. Innovation, I'll speak to this in a few slides, just the idea around not being perfect, but continuing to frankly listen. I think that was something Amanda and I were really good at as we built our team. We were not afraid to take feedback. We truly did take that ice cream truck everywhere, and we launched with flavors that we realized over time weren't the best flavors to launch into ice cream, and we just listened, and we weren't so stubborn not to tweak it. I think that ultimately, frankly, became the complete success of Yasso, is listening to our consumers. So for anyone in the room, if you have clients or consumers, that feedback ultimately is the people at the end of the day that are going to eat your product or use your products, and just listen to them. Still be yourself and always know that you have most of the right answers, but you got to get that feedback. In friendship, I'll get to this in a little bit, but just a core value of Yasso. And these journeys are hard, and it is about endurance, and it's better to be alongside at least one person like I had with Amanda, but we were backed by a whole crew of community, family, friends, just truly an authentic brand, built with kind of a shared vision, that a little bit of a competitive spirit, that we could take, market share from the big guys, but then also deliver quite a bit of happiness to folks just by creating a better product that they might otherwise not be able to. So community, see the ice cream truck just getting towed around, which is fairly expensive. Early days, just getting word out for a small brand like us, although we have a lot of distribution, extremely difficult to get people to understand what your product is. Thankfully, we really did ride the coattails of Giovanni and Faye, and I'm sure a lot of you in the audience made that switch from your traditional American yogurts did that around that time and started to have Chobani mainly because it had less sugar and more protein and had a thicker consistency. So a brand like that really allowed us to not have to communicate to consumers what Greek yogurt was, but the idea that now we're in the ice cream set and you can have a better alternative to whatever it is your frozen treat used to be. And we started out just every Saturday and Sunday. That's my girlfriend at the time, my now wife, and one of my best friends, cutting product instead of, we had so little money, we couldn't give people the whole bar, so we would just cut it into 8 pieces and be like, you can try this little piece, but then you have to go buy it. But we traveled the country just sampling anywhere we had retail distribution. We would our truck and give people free product and frankly listen to what it is they wanted. And it grew. Those early years were so hard. And anyone that's in frozen, I know Carolina's doing frozen cookies. People that received the shipment here today, that requires dry ice. Dry ice is like the worst thing to handle ever. My next venture would definitely be potato chips or something because it would just be much easier. Dry ice was one of the most difficult things. When we were starting to get distribution, our first flavor, we didn't have money for market research, so we just figured if Chobani's best-selling flavors are blueberry, strawberry, and raspberry, we'll just do those. And the strawberry was so bad at 70 calories, we used to fly around the country, and at one point the TSA confiscated our package and wouldn't let us fly on the plane with the dry ice. So we actually used that to our advantage with all the other retailers we'd meet. We'd let them try raspberry and blueberry, which are okay. And then we'd say, TSA took strawberry, but you should give us the order for it. And behind the scenes, we were actually trying to make strawberry better tasting. And, for us, we wanted 3 items on the shelf, and nearly everyone took strawberry. But, those 6 months between getting the order and actually having to be in the stores, we just had to make a better recipe for what strawberry was. But no one really ever tasted the first strawberry that actually bought it. We just lied a little bit and blamed it on dry ice. And you'll see a theme in these core values, like early days, really hard, really gritty, really grinding it out, just putting everything into our passion, and ultimately growing to a whole other level of just support. And these are just events we'd go to, and where Yasso became a fan favorite, more family and friends kind of joining the cause of what we were doing. And I think that's what endurance is. It's a really hard start, but it's worthy of doing it, whatever your passion is. And ultimately, nothing's easy. This is far from an overnight success, but you got to stay with it. And I think our kind of roots in the community and is a testament to how much it's grown and how people became so loyal. And in the early days, it would have been easy to give up, but for us, we stuck with it in large part to the people we surrounded ourselves with. Grit. So 2014, kind of high flying, new kid on the block, not the best financials, but we're picking up a lot of distribution, feeling really good. And we had a poster in our office called David vs. Goliath, and it was Yasso versus all the biggest food companies. And we truly felt that we were going to beat all of them. And we had a small team at the time, probably 10 people in Boston. And we used to have these small family similar to this. Every Friday we do cereal or bagels in our conference room. And one Friday, we're walking towards the conference room, it just felt different. And we're, if anyone from Boston, we're like downtown Boston at the time, Broad Street, right in the Rose Kennedy Greenway, and our favorite bar across the street is called Littlest Bar. And there's a billboard above it facing our office. No consumer could ever see this billboard. We're the only ones. And our conference room felt different. It was like this blur of blue as I'm walking down the hallway. I'm like, what's that? And it was one of these billboards that said, Ben & Jerry's introducing Greek yogurt pints. And these Friday meetings are supposed to be like, rah, rah, we're going to beat everyone. Let's go. We're the little engine that could. We're going to win. That was a tough one when your whole team's like, oh, they're coming. And, we can barely make payroll. In that year, I think all the big guys from Yoplait to Danone, Ben & Jerry's, Skinny Cow, Weight Watchers, they all came with their competitive threat to Yasso. And I think just by virtue of sticking together, staying the course, back to endurance, like not giving up, by 2016, all of them had retreated from the market. And Yasso was #1 better for you frozen novelty. And the sweetness of this story is Ben & Jerry's was that biggest threat. It was like, you can't get much bigger than Ben & Jerry's and ice cream. And within 10 years later, their parent company, Unilever, the largest ice cream manufacturer in the world, actually bought Yasso. So I think this is one of my favorite elements of endurance. Is it was a really hard journey, but at the end, it ultimately is almost sick how funny it is in terms of they were trying to take us out of the market, but they ultimately had to relent, and the only way they could succeed was by buying Yasso. You know, in that is a million stories of more endurance, but I love that photo just in terms of like, you can't give up, but it would have been easy in that moment to maybe think about other options in terms of how we build a business or what products, or do we even just leave ice cream altogether and go to refrigerated, kind of shy away from the big guy, but we didn't. And I think that's important in every part of the endurance journey is you just can't give up because there's going to be hard parts. Innovation, these are our first babies of Yasso. That's strawberry, blueberry, and raspberry. And, you know, our thought was just make it as little calories as possible. Those bars are 70 calories, and I promise you they did not taste good. My parents threw us a barbecue, and all my friends and relatives from Boston came over, and Amanda's family was there. And we tasted these. We're so proud that this is our new venture, and only in a way that the Boston kind of barbecue could go. They're like, these things fucking suck, dude. You should do something else. So that was a rude awakening to realizing that if even my own mother doesn't like my product, maybe we should, you know, spend some more money on research and development. And I promise you, even to this day, even 2 years ago, mint chocolate chip's been our best seller since 2015. We're constantly, I wouldn't say constantly changing it for the royalists, but we're always looking at ways to make it better. And in 2021, we even made mint more creamy, and it actually, the velocities, mean the movement on shelf increase. So you just never rest on your laurels, and you know, you always look at the market in terms of where consumers are going for us. But no matter what your business is, you got to be willing to adapt and be better. And I think that's just the peaks and valleys of the journey. And for us now, we're in different items beyond the bars with chocolate coated, mochi, poppables, sandwiches. And we have a lot of innovation on the way, especially backed by Unilever. But for us, I think this was probably the core of our story, is that we could have just been stubborn and stayed. And I think in those early days, the move to go from 70 calories to 100 was the game changer in terms of taste profile. And the other big thing for us is realizing that, you know, no one really wants strawberry, blueberry, and raspberry after dinner. They kind of want chocolate and peanut butter and sea salt caramel. So in 2014, we launched what we called Everyday Indulgence, which was our mint chip, peanut butter, chocolate. And now top 10 of our flavors have some combination of chocolate in them. So it speaks to what people want. And for us, if you think about that, that's kind of crazy because we're already doing about 18 million revenue at reasonable national distribution. But if you look out 2 or 3 years, we might not have been a success story at all if we didn't change the flavor. So no matter what it is you're doing, I think always just looking further out and kind of putting a goal out there to how do you get better? How do I just, you know, evolve my skill set or, you know, my product? And that was the story of Yasso. In friendship, you know, the last core thread, I just feel that it was a long journey. It truly was like a family affair. Amanda feels more like a sister to me than a friend. And we have so many best friends that have been involved in this journey. I think for you guys, no matter what it is you're doing, I think this whole community is just like this, right? You got to do it together, make friends, you welcome everyone. And nothing is an overnight success that is truly a success. And to be able to do it with people you care for and trust and love, I think that's what made Yasso so special. And this is our team that I built the Colorado office. And when I say those are real friends, truly like a work-life balance of I think the best of both worlds in terms of how people care for each other, look out for one another. And for us, on a journey of endurance of what that means, I can't think of any part of my life or something that's been really challenging that I haven't done alongside either my wife or my business partner or my friends. And I would just leave here today with what you guys are doing here with this group and this community. It's probably not easy finding speakers or just getting, locations and knowing it's happening on a global scale and everyone's moving forward. That's endurance. It's never giving up, but just ultimately trying to make it better day by day. That was the story of Yasso, and what ultimately made us successful. And honored to be able to share tidbits of the story. I just wish you all luck in whatever it is you're trying to do. And I think, for us, it's just wholeheartedly believing in whatever your purpose is, and just knowing that it's not going to be 100% perfect, but someday it could be if you just continuously improve. So appreciate you guys all coming out today. Appreciate you guys having me. Thank you.